Okay, my name is Paul Muus. I was born in September 25th, 1949.
And where were you born?
So I was born in Fergus Falls, Minnesota, which was a town that you heard my father reference. His parents lived in Fergus Falls, and at that time I was born where the grandparents were.
Very good. And is that where you were educated? Is that where you went to school?
No, and then following birth, my father, as mentioned, took his first teaching job in Chisholm, Minnesota, and so for 2 years I lived in Chisholm. My sister Janet, a year younger than me, she was born in Hibbing, right next door, up on the Iron Range of Minnesota. But after those 2 years in Chisholm, then it was our family moved to Ottawa, Illinois. So Dad came to Ottawa with 2 children, young age, and that's where our whole family spent the rest of our years growing up and enjoying being part of Ottawa community.
And who are your other brothers and sisters?
Well, I have a sister Janet, a year younger than me, 2 brothers, 4 years younger than me, James and John, and then 2 more sisters, 8, 9 years younger than me, Beverly and Phyllis. Well, we lived on the north side of Ottawa, up in Field Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And so we came down the hill and went to school at Jefferson Elementary School. And then following our years at Jefferson through 6th grade, then we had the middle school, the 7th and 8th grade, down at Central School, down in center Ottawa. And this was before the school up on the south side, Shepherd. So all of our family went to school at Jefferson and Central School, and then Ottawa High School, where we all enjoyed our school experiences, and especially enjoyed participating in the music, and also all of us were involved in sports to a very strong degree. Always pretty much 3 sports for most of us. Maybe not my sister Janet, but I think Janet came before they had the interscholastic girls sports team.
How many Hall of Famers do you have in your family?
Well, I was blessed to be a part of a good class of kids through high school, and so I was part of a Hall of Fame football team, which was, I suppose, the team of 1990 or 1966. It's getting to be a long time ago, 1966. But then later on, my brothers, 4 years behind me, they were part of a tennis team that did well down at state, and so they had a chance to be in the Ottawa Hall of Fame with the tennis team. But then actually my brother James went on to become All-American about at least 4 times with cross country and track at St. Olaf College. He was All-American and did very well, and the rest of us just did what we could.
Yeah. Now your dad is also in the Hall of Fame, isn't he? Was he inducted into the Hall of Fame
at Ottawa?
Yes.
At Ottawa. Well, that was very kind. Being he represented the early part of the program, he certainly had a significant time there, and grateful to have that honor. Well, I guess I would just say we grew up in it. is pretty much just has always been in the family. Dad, of course, as we heard, as he was mentioning, had choral students of his madrigal group rehearsing in the home, and I can remember being quite small having these kids in the home, and we enjoyed being aware of what was going on. We had piano lessons in our early years. I believe I started piano at maybe third grade and went through about 8th grade, and then when I got into high school I dropped it because of all the other, so I was limited in how far I went with piano. But I do remember, certainly always enjoying music in elementary education, and I remember being in a select music Ottawa music group within the elementary schools back when I was in 3rd grade. We had a music teacher named Jantina Norman, I think Dutch descent, and she had a special city singing group that we met at Columbus School on Center Ottawa, and so that was an early experience, but had it in the family, always participated in our school system, so it's always been good. Graduated from Ottawa. I wasn't sure where my direction was going to be outside of, we had a strong tradition of family connection to St. Olaf College, and so growing up within the family, always had a desire to follow that tradition of the parents and go to St. Olaf College, and that's the way it worked out with all of our family. They all attended or went to school, graduated from St. Olaf College, and so as I entered St. Olaf College as a freshman, I was undecided what I was going to do, so I had a freshman corridor counselor connected with the football team. I enjoyed playing football at Ottawa, so I carried on. He talked me into carrying on with a little football at St. Olaf, and so for 2 years, including the fall of my sophomore year at St. Olaf, I played football. All 4 years at St. Olaf, I did play tennis also, but it was my sophomore year at St. Olaf, after the football season, when I started to think about making a decision towards the direction of my study at St. Olaf, and quite frankly, that decision was just based on what meant so much to me as I grew up in Ottawa, growing up within my family, going through my dad's program in the high school. I just thought there was so much that was just enjoyable, being a part of the choir program, and I felt at that particular time I had music reading ability. My piano skills were not too good, and especially having let them go for about 4 years, I decided I'll get into the music program at St. Olaf starting the 2nd semester, and that meant starting to get back to piano, to bring me back to my maybe 4th, 5th grade ability, and try to see if I could bring my piano playing back to my 8th grade level. That was questionable. So I never was a great keyboard player, but I could use it in a practical sense, but I got into some voice training. But even the voice lessons, I could have been a little more serious with that. what always was very special to me was the thought of working with choirs. And so, of course, the voice training was very practical, but I never was training to the level where that was my, solo instrument of, of greater refinement. But again, grateful for the training to use my voice in a practical sense to eventually, through my opportunity to be a part of the choirs at St. Olaf, and including the St. Olaf choir my senior year, and working in a choral sense, got into choral conducting and took the music education courses, and so in my 4 years at St. Olaf I did end up with a music education degree. And
what year did you graduate?
I graduated in 1971. I had a very fine opportunity for student teaching with a strong choral program in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, under a former St. Olaf choir person, and it was a very good opportunity in a good program. Enjoyed the chance to work with the kids there. As I look back, the only problem with that, it was too short. For some reason, I think more often nowadays, the student teaching is often a semester. Yeah. And back then,
9 weeks or so.
What?
Was it maybe 9 weeks?
I only had about eight weeks in the spring of my senior year, and again, like I say, I worked at the elementary level, but had a limited time working in a very good choral program in the Twin Cities, White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and that went well. And so after graduating from St. Olaf, back then I wasn't one of those that had a car on campus, but I started applying for jobs, and I had opportunity to be interviewed at several spots, and took bus rides to these interviews, and ended up being offered a position in Osseo, Wisconsin, for the coming fall of 1971. And Osseo is just a nice rural community, about 21 miles south of Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So a good area within the Wisconsin state.
How long did you teach there then?
And so then I taught there, and that was junior and senior high music. Also, I think I probably had some general music, but junior, senior high choirs. And I probably had two choirs at the high school level, mixed groups, and then a junior high group. And I was there for 3 years, and the reason I left that job was because at that time, in the spring of 1974, that's when my dad asked me, he must have discussed it with the administration, he asked me if I might be interested in coming down to work with the choir program down in Ottawa, which was really a very special opportunity, because I was given, I suppose, a little special consideration being connected to Ottawa and the former director. But like I say, what got me into working with music education was what I experienced at Ottawa High School, and so I was very familiar with every aspect of Ottawa's program, and felt there could be a very nice transition from Dad working with the choirs and myself, though I'm less experienced, working with the choirs in pretty much the exact program that had been what Dad was conducting, and that was working with two mixed groups and a girls' chorus, and then working with different ensembles and different sectionals in the morning. But I also, and again, I was coming to Ottawa, I guess I forgot to say, because Dad was going to be initiating a string program at the high school level. They had it in the elementary grades, and so they wanted to be able to now have those elementary kids be able to, junior high, move up into a program at the high school level. And so
75, the fall of 75 is when?
Actually the fall of 74.
74. Yes, I'm sorry.
74.
Yes.
Okay. Then Dad was working with the strings, I was working with the choirs, and so for our programs, we usually had a routine of a Christmas, Easter program, and spring concert. Spring concert, for the most part, being more lighter and popular music, and I think as I came, the spring concert became even, a little bit more popular, in the sense that I was aware of what was popular at the time more than my dad was, but certainly I wanted to, uphold the traditions of the quality repertoire within the overall school program, and also have it be a music education program. So as my father mentioned, we certainly wanted the kids to be able to understand what it was they were seeing as they saw music notation, and be able to relate to enough music theory so that they could relate tonally and rhythmically in a way that would grow as we work with the music itself. And so we had the students get their music notebooks at the beginning of the year too, but it usually went for a couple weeks, and then we gotta get into the program, because concerts come sooner than you maybe wish. But yeah, and there's only so much time within the school day for kids to get all of what they desire to have in their in their coursework. And so sometimes you have conflict with courses. I think over the years, when the band and the choir both, the main or the first group both met at the same, they probably tried to keep it possible for your students, strong students, to participate musically as they want to have that fuller part of the whole academic program. But I think later on, as things went down, through the years, sometimes, and I see that these days too, now, where people are trying to get college courses in during high school, and so scheduling but then again, like I say, if you were in choir, you couldn't be in band unless you were maybe part of the madrigal group, the special group, and I think that later on took a little toll. But and I myself, I thought another way of connecting, I continue to be involved in sports as a choir director, in that I helped coach wrestling and helped coach volunteer with tennis. And I just...
Did that help in recruiting?
Well, I don't know that it helped in recruiting, but I just hope that people would see the connection that, we want a strong effort in choir. We want to offer successful opportunities, and we certainly work for success in athletics too. So just tried to have exposure within the student body, but again, it maybe as you look back, maybe there are ways that could have then moved forward with other additions to just spark greater interest from the outside to connect with the program. But like I say, after we left, things did drop, and so I always enjoyed, as we were involved in concerts, it's a pulling together of all the choirs, and so you certainly hope that all are encouraged. As each individual group performs, you also combine them for different numbers and try to, each program you tried to make special, but yet I think, there were, as comes up from time to time, certainly special opportunities for additional performances. Like I remember when the King of Norway came to LaSalle County, came to Ottawa, our choir was able to sing a few selections, one in Norwegian for the King of Norway, or the centennial or bicentennial for our country in 1976. We've had some special performance. It's nice to feel that you have a group that can then work into these special opportunities to sing additionally beyond just the regular programs. I guess ultimately, the choir tours were a very special experience too, that I think those kids that had a chance to experience the choir tours, those end up being very memorable, and as a director likewise, and with that group of kids, it was a smaller group that would fit within a bus, and I think the largest bus we ever had was a 48 passenger bus, and a couple of those are adults, so you'd end up having on tour maybe 44, 45 singers.
I guess you develop a strong bond.
Yeah, and actually, those kids, singing on tour, it was always promised to, every student, anyone that stays with the program would have an opportunity to have a choir tour or be on tour if they so choose. And during the summer, many were able to make it work, and some, couldn't. But yet during that summer time, you work together as a group with some of the music that you'd done throughout the school year, and other would be some new music, but then over the summer, finally taking it on tour. Then the very special experience, I think, in having a tour or a concert tour is night after night you're singing that same program that continues to gel and come together, and different from, say, the one concert 3 times a year, one concert night 3 times a year. Here we'd, be able to sing that concert, with the group working together, in a more bonded way, night after night for anywhere from 10 to 14 to 20 days on tour, and then the chance to see the country, as Dad already mentioned, enjoy meeting new people night after night, being able to sing and then interact with the responses of the people, both following the concert and in the homes of hosts. It was all very positive, and kids become like a family in that bus, and it's very, very special.
During your tenure there, and how many years did you teach at Ottawa High School?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay. Starting in 74?
74 through 78.
Very good.
And here again, the only reason I was leaving was, again, desiring to be a part of new experiences for the family, that in an area that had a special attraction. So in a sense, it was sort of letting a vocation go, for just the opportunity to see what's new with the family, and so that's mixed feelings on that, but again, certainly grateful to see what then eventually built to be the present program that is very very special to see the wonderful work that the students are doing musically in Ottawa. Again, Ottawa, always was and always continued to be a very special place to be, both at the school and in the community. And what's amazing, it was a wonderful place to grow up. It was a wonderful place to go back and be involved, in vocation. But all those years, then since then, we've been up here in Grand Marais, Minnesota, and enjoying this particular community. And all of a sudden, the years have kind of flown by and added up to where our time in Ottawa was the lesser time, right. What we've been. But well, after building a home for the folks within a year, I actually had a chance to work within the school system up here and work with choirs and the general music. And actually up here I got opportunity to work at the elementary level too. And so it was opportunity to work K through 12 vocally, and enjoyed that, but a much smaller school system here. And
how many years did you teach there?
So I taught here for 5 years, and you can sometimes look back and think, well, is this a good decision or bad? Well, at the time, after 5 years, I kind of had a desire to work more again at a maybe a little higher level in a high school program that desired a stronger music program, and so I maybe naively thought maybe I'd take a year off and then check back with opportunities and getting back into a school system where I could work with a little bigger high school program. Not that things were bad here, but it was just limited with the numbers that could be involved with. But again, I enjoyed so much those that I worked with, and I remember hearing, well, we had kids that were dedicated, and some that did end up choosing to apply for All-State and become a part of the All-State music. But again, chorally, the numbers were less. And so after a year off from the teaching, I went checking openings and applying, but besides looking for a place, I also didn't want to be too far away from the North Shore up here that I couldn't enjoy family, and so maybe my desires were just not all compatible there. So I had a number of interviews, and in some I would maybe decide that, well, it didn't quite seem to be the program I wanted. But then some that I thought I wanted, I ended up being the other person not selected. And so ultimately it was a matter of, do I continue to pursue that, or do I want to continue to be up here seeing what takes shape? And so I ended up really just deciding to be up in this area, and ended up doing a little carpentry with a friend. Ultimately, I might mention, a couple years after I left up here, they then cut out the vocal music because of financial straits. So the person that followed me ended up only being there a couple years, and then they cut the vocal music program out of up here, and it for more years than not, they had a couple of times where they brought the music program back in, choral program, I mean to say, choral program back in, but then finances hit. And at the present time, they have, I think, a considerate benefactor that is providing some funding for a little vocal music in the school program, where we have a very talented young lady working with it, but at any rate, ended up just having my music go more towards within the church, and within community activities, and within family, and so it essentially ended up really sacrificing vocation for a chance to be up here. But I don't know what ultimately ends up being the case. Oftentimes in life, you can make decisions, and some make big changes, but I've always felt that in spite of what maybe was lost, there's been something gained, including my wife, that was someone where the both of us found each other at later times in life, and you just can't help but feel blessed for the way God redeems situations, or just continues to bring you forward in situations that end up allowing you to say, life has been a blessing and life is good. And once again, as had been in Ottawa, our family has been able to really enjoy our activities within this community and participation to where people have appreciated us being here, and so a mutual blessing there. And so for now, the present time, I should say after some carpentry, I then did get back in the school system for a number of years as a paraprofessional connected with special education, but again, financially that doesn't go too far, but again, I say life in general has been good, and so though I haven't built up worldly assets, I'm just so grateful for just life's blessings as they have been, and so following probably counting my years of vocal music in the school system here, I did spend 30 years within our school system here, and following 30 years I then retired at the kind of the more regular retirement age, which says I made 66 so far.
Yeah.
Well, I just give thanks for opportunity to have been a part of the Ottawa program, the Ottawa community. Great thanks, and you hate to think of the years that passed between now and what was, the number of years and the changes made, but again, every connection with the past is certainly a blessing, continues to be good, and give thanks.